Welcome to the Getting Through Today podcast. I'm Brita. Come along with me as I share my story of the ups and downs through chronic illness and depression, all while being a mother of 5. I know healing is possible, and through every phase there is beauty, even if we don't always see it at the time. I know what it feels like to just get through one day at a time. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back. Today's episode is one I've been sitting with for a while because it's something I've experienced and I know I'm not alone. We're going to talk about being intentional with our words, not just with other people, but with ourselves. Because whether we realize it or not, the things we say, even casually or automatically, they do have the power to shape how we see ourselves, how we relate to others, and how we move through the world. One of the most common phrases that I can think about is, "I'm sorry." I want to go through that one today, but also take it a step further, because it's not just about apologizing. It's about the language we use without even thinking. The scripts we've absorbed, the phrases we default to when we're unsure, anxious, maybe afraid of judgment, or even trying to stay small. Some of these phrases are, "I'm sorry," "I'm fine," "never mind, it's not important," "I probably sound crazy," "I should have," and then fill in the blank. These little lines might seem harmless, but they may act like background music that plays on repeat. And over time, they do influence the story we tell ourselves about who we are, what we're worth, and what we're allowed to feel. So in this episode, we'll look a little more closely about what some of these phrases mean and how automatic language may be keeping us stuck, and then offer some ways to reframe those words so they might reflect our truth, our worth, and our growth a little bit better. Saying "I'm sorry" is one of those phrases that's woven into my life probably almost every day. We may say it when someone bumps into us. We may say it when we're asking a question or interrupting, taking up space, or just existing in a moment where we feel inconvenient. But the meaning behind those two words is not fixed. It really shifts depending on who's saying it, why, and what emotional weight we attach to it. So the reason I've been thinking about these words of "I'm sorry" is I was with someone who is awesome, really great gal, but I don't even remember why I said "I'm sorry." But I said it a few times while we were together, and every time I said it, she says, "Don't say you're sorry. Don't say that. Don't diminish yourself." And it made me kind of look at those words and try to figure out what it really meant. And a lot of times when I say, "Oh, sorry," like if I bump into someone, I say, "Oops, sorry." But what I really mean is, "Oops." And so I don't feel like I'm diminishing myself by saying those words. To me, the words "I'm sorry" have a lot of different meanings. Through my chronic health struggles, I found myself saying "I'm sorry" a lot. I would say, "I'm sorry I didn't respond sooner," or "I'm sorry I had to cancel again," or even apologizing for needing help. It was almost like I was apologizing for being sick or just being human. And at the time, it was just a natural way to be. I was sorry I couldn't be to events I had to cancel. I did feel sorry. I did feel bad when I couldn't do the things I said I would do, or I really did feel bad when I was asking for help. But a couple of friends started calling me out, not in a harsh way, and it kind of triggered me. And they told me, "Hey, stop apologizing. You didn't do anything wrong." And I'll be honest, I was defensive at first, because to me, "I'm sorry" wasn't always a critical thing. I felt like a lot of times it was a way I was being compassionate to myself and others. It was my way of saying, "I care," or "I wish things were different." But the more I looked into it, the more I realized that I was using those words almost automatically, and that sometimes they were rooted in guilt that I didn't even need to carry. I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes saying I'm sorry is a reflex. And it can just, like I said, if you bump into someone and you just say it without thinking. Other times, I really feel like it could be an act of courage when you're owning a mistake or genuinely expressing remorse. And saying I'm sorry in those moments is so important. I've used it as an expression of empathy, like when you might hear someone's pain and acknowledge it, even though it's not yours to fix. I feel like all of those are valid. The problem is not that we say I'm sorry. The problem is when we might use it out of habit, especially when it could be tied to shame or a feeling that we're too much or not enough. So that brings me to something I really want you to hear. You don't have to apologize for what you're going through. You don't have to apologize for being human. There are a lot of things that happen in our life that are out of our control, and we don't have to apologize for them. We can own it and work through it. So I've really focused on the words I'm sorry because it, like I said, it's been something that's been on my mind. But those words are just one example. But maybe take a look at what else you're saying without even noticing. I'm sure we all have those go-to scripts or phrases that we say when we're trying to be polite or avoid conflict or anything else. Some of these phrases are, I'm fine, even when we're not, or it's no big deal, when it actually is a big deal. Another one is, sorry for venting, when we're just trying to be seen and heard. And another one is, I'm just being sensitive, when we're actually just feeling deeply. I feel like so many of these phrases aren't really about expressing how we feel. They're about managing how we're perceived. They could be protective. They're learned, and often they're rooted in survival mechanisms we picked up when it wasn't safe to be our full, honest selves. But here's the powerful truth. What you say out loud or silently in your mind can start to shape what you truly believe internally. If your first instinct is always to soften yourself, shrink your needs, or apologize for your emotions, that narrative seeps deeper and deeper into how you see your worth. So let me ask you this. Have you ever caught yourself saying something like, I know this probably sounds crazy, but, or I'm probably overthinking it, before sharing something real? Have you used these phrases? Those are the kind of habits I'd like to bring awareness to, not to shame it, but just to understand it, to see why we're saying certain things. What is the meaning behind it? Because when we can see those patterns, we get to decide if we really want to say those and if that's really what we're meaning. And if not, we get to choose new ones. And sometimes it's deeper than that. It just gives us an opportunity to see how we're really talking to ourselves and others. So you may be wondering, what do we do with all this awareness? And that's where we start practicing reframing. Let me be clear, reframing is not about pretending or faking positivity. That's not a great way to go when you're wanting to reframe something. It's just about telling the truth in a way that's aligned with our values, our growth, and our self-respect. And here's some examples of what that could sound like. Instead of saying, I'm sorry I'm late, maybe say, thank you for your patience. That's more in gratitude instead of making it sound like you're in the wrong. Another one is instead of saying, I'm sorry I'm so emotional, which is one I probably say a lot. Another way to say that is thank you for holding space while I process this. To me, that has a much more positive feeling than saying, I'm sorry I'm emotional. When I say thank you for holding space for me, that feels good. And that person, no matter what you say, is holding space for you. They're there for you. And another one that may come up a lot is, I'm sorry I didn't get to that. But instead, maybe say, I appreciate your understanding as I manage a lot right now. And those may sound really simple, but for me, there's an energy in those words that feel a little lighter and happier when I focus on, hey, thank you for doing this, instead of, I'm sorry this is happening. Reframing allows us to stay in connection with our relationships while also staying connected to ourselves. And yes, this applies just as much to your inner dialogue. What are you saying to yourself when things go wrong? Or when you forget something? Or when you need a break? Maybe you're in the habit of saying, I'm so lazy because you're not able to do things. But what if you reframe that to saying, my body needs rest and I'm going to listen? Or one I say a lot is, I am such a mess. What is that telling myself? What if I reframe that to say, I'm having a hard moment and that's okay? Or how many times have we told ourselves, I'm failing? But what if we reframed that one to, I'm learning something new and I'm growing? Now, these small shifts, they might not feel natural at first, but with time and practice, they can become a new internal language, one that is rooted in love and not fear. A lot of these phrases, like I said, once you get that awareness of what you're saying to yourself and others, and then you start reframing them, sometimes we do have these deep-seated beliefs about ourselves. And that's why we're saying these phrases. And it could just be the way we grew up, of course, the way other people talked, and we just talk that way. But I'd like you to look at some of the things that you're saying to yourself and just dive into them and see what they mean to you, why you're saying them, and get a little more intentional with your words. I know with me, when I was really going through some of my toughest moments, something that I would say on repeat is, I can't do this anymore. I am such a mess. I would say that all the time. And when I look back, I think of myself and maybe I was a mess. I was a mess, right? But had I had a little more compassion and self-love for myself to say, hey, things are going on with my body that I don't understand or that are frustrating, have that awareness and feel into it. Yes, this sucks and I don't like it and it's not fun, but I'm doing the best I can. And acknowledging that right now, the only thing I can do is rest, and that is great for myself. It just has a little different energy. So I'd love to invite you for this next week, to just get a little bit curious. Maybe grab a notebook or even just open a note on your phone and start tracking your language, especially the phrases that you use automatically for different things. Like I said, some of those things could be, I'm sorry, I'm fine, I should, never mind, or anything that makes you feel small or invisible. That's one thing too, when I was in the midst of feeling really terrible all the time. I got to the point when people would ask me how I was doing, I would smile and say, I'm fine. I wasn't fine, but it was really hard for me to open up to people and tell them I wasn't fine because I felt like it just made people uncomfortable. So instead of being out with people because everybody asked how I was doing, I started isolating, and there's many reasons I was isolating, but that was one of the reasons that I started isolating, is because I didn't want to have to pretend that I was okay when I wasn't. It was not authentic to me, but I also didn't want to feel like I was whining or being a downer or placing heavy emotions on other people. Because I understand there's certain acquaintances that don't need my full story or why I'm feeling terrible, but that was a real challenge for me to know how to respond to people. And now for me, when I'm having a rough day, I say, I'm doing okay. Because to me, that has a very broad range of meaning for it. And even if I'm not doing the greatest, I'm doing okay feels aligned with how I'm feeling. And then if it's someone who wants to know more, they can ask me and I can give more details. But that's usually, for me, it's a good answer just to move forward and have most people not ask more questions. But each time you notice any of these phrases that you're saying automatically, just think about, what did you really mean to say? What is that meaning? Even if you keep saying these phrases, think about why you're saying them. Were you trying to express gratitude or empathy or even discomfort? And another thing you could ask yourself is, could I have honored myself and the other person with different words? Now, this isn't about catching yourself in the act and scolding yourself. It's just about practicing presence and intentionally choosing words that support the person you are and that you want to become. You're allowed to say, I'm sorry, or apologize, but you're also allowed to say, I appreciate you. This is hard for me. I'm doing my best, or I need a moment. You are allowed to take up space in your own story without shrinking your words. I'd love to hear your voice in this conversation. What's a phrase you've caught yourself saying lately that you're ready to reframe? Or maybe you've experienced a moment when someone reframed their words for you and it stuck with you in a powerful way. One other thing I'd like to address is, when I notice what other people are saying, I don't want to correct them or tell them what they should or shouldn't say, because I myself don't like that when people do it to me. It kind of bothers me. When I view what other people are saying, it has helped me just be a little more intentional with my words. And so I love to hear what other people are saying, what phrases you're using, and why you say them, and if you think it has an impact on you or not. But as we share these things, I feel like we can help ourselves and others feel seen and heard. And just know that you're not too much. You are not a burden. You don't need to apologize for your needs, your feelings, or your healing journey. It's important to speak your truth kindly, intentionally, and with your whole heart. You are a beautiful warrior, and your voice matters here. Until next time, keep getting through today, one intentional word at a time.